started, what kind of questions do you guys all have as far as how are you guys doing as far as sellers go?
I'm doing terribly. I hate, I'm so excited for this class because I'm terrified to even meet with sellers because I feel like my listing presentation, it's just terrible. And it's just really frightening. So I think I'm missing a lot of opportunities. I just want to appear polished and know what I'm talking about and just have a template. And I don't know, some of the stuff online that I've looked at, it's just not where I want to be. I had an opportunity to shadow someone who wouldn't share their listing presentation. So I'm hoping you're going to give us a good one.
Oh, okay.
But I can copy. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So opportunities, so actually handling objections and stuff like that too, right?
Absolutely. Objection handlers, just kind of knowing the flow. Okay, so yeah, objection handlers would be great. And then also the close, like you go through this whole presentation, bring all this fantastic data. I feel like I'm giving everything away. And they're like, okay, we'll call you tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, thanks, bye. And then I'm like freaking out. They're interviewing other people. Like, I don't know how to close it. I don't know what to say to sound, I don't know. I want it to sound, I don't even know what the word is. I want it to be fluid and natural and not like, like, okay, sign here. Like I'd really be screwing up on the close.
So how are you asking questions when are you giving a listing presentation or a listing consultation?
I honest to God don't even know the difference.
So like when you're consulting with somebody, you're actually going through and you're asking specific questions, making sure that they buy in. Whereas when you're presenting something, it's a lot of, sometimes people vomit all over the sellers. Myself included.
That's what I do.
And then is there anything that you kind of hold close to you that you give them once they're ready to sign the paperwork?
No, I give them everything all at once.
Okay. How about other people? Anyone else?
Hey, David.
Yeah.
Real quick, I'm going to, so as a facilitator here, guys, I'm going to ask you where you're at right now to turn your cameras on and be 100% participatory in this class. So if you don't have a camera, I understand that, but I'm going to ask everybody to turn your cameras on. We don't care if you're in your COVID clothes. That's okay.
You can just, you can aim them up at the ceiling if it's just your forehead and you're using them still.
So the other thing, to get the most out of this class, turn your view to speaker view so that you can hear David or who's ever talking. That'll be the best for you. So, okay, David, turning it back over to you. Thank you.
Awesome. So we'll dig right in. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? Things you want to get out of this?
I'm just always looking for more things to pull from.
Things to pull from. Thanks, Lindsay. Anybody else?
I'm just looking for more information to constantly stay ready so I don't have to get ready. I kind of feel like if you don't have a client to actually present a listing presentation to, you darn well better be allocating time to practicing objection scripts and how to differentiate yourself from some other conversation they may be having. So my takeaway that I'd like is, how do you position yourself to make sure that when it's you up against somebody else, there's a slim chance that you lose?
So how to position yourself up against somebody else so
that they won't lose. Pick you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Howard. That's awesome. And what else?
I'm looking for more opportunities to get in front of the sellers and hence more listings.
You're in the top 20%. You can leave now, Sergio.
No limit.
What about like the prep and like a like a solid pre-qualification script?
Awesome. We're going to go over that, and I'll give you mine too. That kind of explains why we do the way we do it. So if you guys are ready, we'll go ahead and dig in. Does anybody have anything else that you want to get out of this?
I'm
One
just
thing
thinking
that
basically
happened
for
lately
overall.
was a third party, non-communicative, somewhat hostile person who will be making some decisions wouldn't respond to questions, you know, except for one word answers. So
Oh, really?
how to handle that kind of situation.
I would move on to the next client. No. I don't know. Are they going to be like that through the whole process?
Well, I don't know. That's what I'm digging in to try to find out, but it's actually the sister of somebody who's more or less disabled. So and the disabled one is the owner. So.
Okay. So maybe I would almost want to just dig deeper. And I mean, it almost sounds like that's a high D personality type where they're like straight and to the point, or just being stubborn.
Remains to be seen.
Okay, got it. Well, then actually I'll get right into that. And what we're going to do is Bill's going to be on here, and we'll go through and we'll kind of role play a listing presentation. And Bill, if you'd like, we can actually role play what we call the listing pre-qualification.
Absolutely.
All right, let me pull that up. I'm gonna hop into my drive.
And will it be possible for us to get, I know that it's recording, so could we get this recording?
We'll make sure that it's available to you. It will go to our YouTube channel for you to be able to look at as well.
Oh, wonderful. Should have done my hair.
You know, it looks good, David, just the way it is.
Okay, let me see. Pre-qual. Nope. I'm trying to find the right. We were just editing this right before.
So the scenario, while David's finding that, the scenario that we're going to be going through here is I am going to be the seller. David's going to be, you know, trying to get my listing and pre-qualifying why I'm selling. Is that correct, David?
Yes, exactly. So
Okay.
The biggest thing is always making sure that just keep in mind that 30 seconds of defense will beat out 30 minutes of offense every time. So really going through and digging in and getting the questions answered first and foremost, so that you don't have to come back later and ask them, you know, try to explain what happened and why you're doing it this way now. Okay. Prequel. Sorry about this, guys. I'm going to use one. I'm actually going to use one of a client because I cannot find the other copy, but I will go ahead and share my screen right now. All right, can you all see my screen?
Yep.
There we go. Okay, so this is an example of somebody that we've had in the past, and this goes through and we define the pleasure versus pain. So it starts off like this. So, hey, Bill, this is David Berg at Homes on the Sound. I just wanted to give you a call and wanted you to answer some questions before our appointment tomorrow at 3 p.m. Is now a good time?
Yeah, now's a good time, David. Thank you.
Awesome. So, Bill, tell me about your home.
Well, what would you like to know specifically?
Well, what would be nice is if you actually just read what she has here.
Oh, yeah, you bet. Okay. Well, you know, I can tell you that, you know, we've got 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, you know, upstairs we got 2 beds, and it looks like 1 bath upstairs and a large room downstairs, large storage area, laundry room, ACs have been installed in the home. So.
Awesome. And keep in mind that you're on the phone when you're doing this, and you'll move on down to the next question and the next question. I'm going to just kind of break something down so that you understand this. down here on question number 18, it says Zillow today says your home is worth $431,093. What do you think about that? So the whole reason for this is we're getting them used to answering these questions. Then we're going to get an idea what they think about the value of their home so that we have an idea before we go in and we don't totally offend them or anything like that. So what was your reason for buying it, Bill?
You know, the reason we bought it, one, was because it was big. We needed some space. And so we bought that, but, lived in Seattle in a smaller house. And so we wanted to get something bigger.
Awesome. And then where are you moving to?
We're looking at moving to Klahani.
Okay, awesome. And then on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being extremely urgent, how motivated are you to sell your property?
Oh, we're probably about a 5.
About a 5. And what would
Yeah.
make it a 10?
We might want to wait until the prices go up, right? I'm watching the market right now, and the market, it just seems like everything's going up and up and up. And I'm like, am I going to be selling too early?
Perfect. And what will happen if your home does not sell in the required amount of time?
Well, if it doesn't go sell in the required amount of time, I don't know. I'm not quite sure what'll happen. It's like we might miss an opportunity to be around family.
Okay, got it. And then as far as, have you ever done any updates or any kind of work on it?
Yeah, we put a leaf guard, gutters on. We put a cover over the back deck and a new hot water heater just recently.
Great. And now this right here, sometimes they've already answered some of this, so you got to kind of pay attention. How many stories do you have?
We're single story.
Great. And I saw the MLS said you had 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Is that right?
That's correct.
And how many square feet?
Just under 2,600. I think 2,590.
Perfect. Do you have a basement?
Yes.
Wonderful. And the lot square footage, realist says 7,187. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right.
Great.
It's not a huge yard, so.
Awesome. And how many years have you owned it?
Just over 12 years now.
And I can tell this is an older one right here because what you're wanting to do at this point, you're wanting to go from calling it a home to a house. And the reason is because the home is attached and a house is less attached. Basically you're trying to separate them from it. So I can tell this is one of our old forms. It says, how many years have you owned this house? I would say now.
Does everybody understand that? Because when there's emotion to it, you're attached to it. But when you're logically thinking about it, you're detached. So by calling it a house, you're going into the logic subconscious and away from the emotional subconscious.
Exactly. So now rate your home, rate your house on a scale of 1 to 10.
Oh, you kidding? We're an 8.
You're an 8. What would make it a 10?
If we had a little bit bigger yard.
Bigger yard.
I think, but yeah, other than that, I don't know.
So this one, number 17, is huge. The reason that's really good is because now you're giving them a reason that maybe they want 500,000 for their house, but realistically, if it had a bigger yard, they've already told you that it doesn't have a big enough yard. You can now justify this is the reason it's only worth 475. Okay, so and here's a really good question. Zillow today says that your home's worth $431,095. You want to know if they're a high I or a high S, because if they were like a high I personality type, you would say, how do you feel about that? If they're a high S personality type or a high C personality type, you would say, what do you think about that? So Zillow says it's worth $431,000. What do you think about that?
It sounds good.
Sounds good. And how much do you think your home is worth?
Oh, I would say around 435, 440.
Perfect. And how much do you owe on your mortgage?
Last statement said 306,000.
306,000. And how much do you expect to net on your property?
Oh man, enough to buy something outright.
Awesome. And are you up to date on your payments?
Actually, I'm 2 months behind right now.
Great. I'm not great. No, not so good. Are you the sole owner of your home?
Yes.
All right. And will all the decision makers be at the meeting tomorrow?
Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Yes.
Awesome. And do you own any other real estate?
Nope. Nope. This is my only home.
Now, why do you guys think we're asking this?
Other opportunities. And you also don't want to waste time if the person that has to sign on the bottom line isn't there, or if they're not there, are they not there for a valid reason? If they're not there because they're out of town on a business trip or in the military, that's one thing. If they're not there because they said, the hell with you, I'm not selling the home, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Well,
oh, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, what if they're separated? What if they're getting a divorce, right? I mean, you're trying to get information by just asking the questions and getting them to think.
Yeah. What your goal here is my old maps coach used to actually say interrogate reality. So going through, Craig Zuber was my maps coach, and he would always have us, he's the one that also told me 30 seconds of offense will beat out 30 minutes of defense every time. So really going through and getting these questions answered first and foremost. So now asking this specific question, do you own any other real estate? Why do you think we asked that?
Well, for me, I'm looking at what you're saying. So this person is saying they owe 306,000, but Zillow says their house is worth 431,000, and they want to net enough to buy outright. Well, that's only $100,000. So then that's where I'd say, oh, do you own other real estate? For me, I mean,
yeah. And that's actually for them. That's the reason for them, I would say, because now you're trying to find a way that they can actually do what serves them.
right.
So that's where I was going to go after this. If it was for you, it'd be about, oh, I can get another listing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Right.
Yeah. Now, how did you hear about us?
Actually, the Facebook page, Northeast Tacoma Facebook page.
Awesome. And what do you believe it takes to get property sold, especially in this hot market?
Oh, really just kind of putting it up, right? Putting a sign in the yard.
Putting a sign in the yard. Anything else?
In this hot market,
Yeah.
maybe some nice photographs.
Nice photographs. And what else?
I guess the right price.
The right price. So you're saying basically putting a sign in the yard, photographs, and the right price.
Yeah,
Anything else?
sure. No, man, get the right agent. That's what you're coming for, right?
Okay, great. So what you're doing now is you're really like digging in with them, finding out what they expect so that you can just go in there and you don't have any problems taking the listing. So what matters?
Oh, and if I could just add in here, the best question that you can ask is when you're asking a question like this, that there's, multiple answers, is exactly what David was doing, right? Ask the question, what else?
Yes.
And just keep saying, what else? What else? Right? Because it's going to come out. When you understand that to get somebody to think is very difficult, right? But when they start to get this stuff out there, more and more information is going to come out. You're going to get to that center core of that person. So keep saying what else.
Yeah, very, very true. And actually, there's a coaching book you're probably talking about. It's AWE.
Yeah. And what else?
And what else? And what else? And you just keep digging, and
yep,
they don't know that you don't know more stuff. And you'll actually learn a lot of it too when you're asking people that.
Does anybody ever turn that question around? Like, I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm just sassy, but I'd be like, isn't that why you're here?
Yeah, they sure do.
What do you say? What do you say to that?
You move to the next question.
Okay.
And you just kind of chuckle.
If I'm being sassy back, I look at him and I go, well, yes, I know, but I want to hear from you.
Yep. And some will also catch you on this one too. Zillow today says your home is worth this. So kind of a key right here. Don't go too detailed on that number. Just say Zillow today says your home is worth about $431,000. What do you think about that? And sometimes if you like go into the 431,095, they'll come back and they'll say that, that's why you're here. That gives them too much of time to think about why you're asking that question. All right. So what matters to you most in a real estate broker, Bill?
Somebody that's going to do a good job, be honest, service, how available you are to answer questions. I want them answered quickly.
Awesome. So you said honest, serving, and answer questions quickly?
Yeah.
Great. And are you interviewing any other agents?
No.
No, you're not. Okay.
Not
cool.
unless you screw this one up.
Right. Okay, great. That's important to ask because if they are saying that, oh, I'm interviewing Tracy Sands right now, and then you just want to respond back to them and you want to let them, or you actually want to kind of do your homework. What does Tracy do to actually get listings? What can she do, or what's her listing presentation like?
She's got a nice nose. So.
All right. What will you expect from us when selling your home?
To give honest advice.
Perfect. So giving honest advice. You mentioned earlier being honest, serving. So define honest advice. What specifically do you mean by that?
That you're going to tell me the truth, not what I necessarily want to hear.
Perfect. So what I'm hearing, now this right here is where you're interrogating reality and eliminating all options for anything else they could do. So what I'm hearing is that if we provide you honest advice that supports your expectations, would you hire us to get your home sold? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I would.
Great. So other than honest advice, great marketing, great photos, a sign in the yard, is there anything else that anyone else has promised you that we should be aware of?
No.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Bill. We'll see you tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
So that kind of, does that help at all?
Let me ask you this question. How many of you are using a pre-qualification script and calling before your listings? Presentations.
But I know.
Okay. What would it do for you? What would it do for you specifically if you did a pre-qualification script?
You can show up better prepared and do a one-step listing agreement.
Okay.
Step listing appointment.
Very good.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, who said that?
Morgan.
So is this before your appointment? When do you do this? When do you ask all these questions?
We do it the day before. So
The day
about
before the appointment.
Yeah, we try to keep it about 24 hours in advance because usually we know that's a time that's good for them. So it's also easier to remember that way.
Mm-hmm.
So if it was like 3 o'clock tomorrow, then we'd aim for that appointment to be 3 o'clock the previous day.
So the 24 hours before, you call and ask all these questions and go into the appointment with them the next day with all this information.
Yes, and this will a lot of times save you another trip. So you don't have to go in and now you kind of get an idea. You can come there with a CMA, and your CMA might be maybe a $25,000 range, but you know about what it is and you can adjust it and get ready to go for the listing agreement.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So David, I usually ask questions when I'm on the phone with them on the initial phone call, and we set up an appointment. Some people, well, most people I know, or I've already sold their house, so I kind of know about the house already. But I think doing this if it was a stranger would probably be better for me. Is there an advantage, even if I know the people and they call me and they're chatting, to do this still a day in advance?
No, I would say honestly, when it's somebody you know and you're just going there to do the listing paperwork, I'd still do this only to like get some of the things answered. Sometimes you've been to the house already when it's somebody you know, or maybe you sold them the house. But if you don't know whether or not they've done updates or anything like that, this is still valuable for that.
And one of the things that I do like doing about this, even with people I know, Lori, is that I'm setting the expectations up, right? The biggest complaint that people have is when we don't meet expectations or we don't set what those expectations are. And by going, maybe you don't have to hit every question, but you're hitting, hey, I know we're friends. I know I've sold you, but can you just, I want to make sure that we're working on the same plane. What are your expectations? What do you think it's going to take in this hot market to be able to sell your home? You could ask anybody that, right?
Yeah.
That's
Because
a good question. I was looking at these questions and I was thinking, I do this, but I don't have a form. I'm just writing stuff down as I'm talking or typing into the computer, and it just all kind of comes off the top of my head.
Mhm.
So I miss stuff in this
Right.
section. I'm doing it from
You're doing it from experience.
just from the head, but
Yeah.
like, what do you expect? I think that's a really good question, because some people could come back to you and say, oh, well, in this market, all you got to do is really set a sign in your yard and that's it. And
Mhm.
they could have that answer and they truly believe it. They just don't know everything else that goes into it.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
shading and stuff.
And generally, if they think all they're doing, all you got to do is put a sign in the yard,
They want
that's setting them up for a commission cut conversation potentially.
Yep.
Yep.
Right. And that's something else I'll get into in a minute. So when we get to the actual house, this is a paper I usually have with me. And these are what we call the market is a beauty contest. And this gives us a timeline to give to them. And a lot of times what they'll do in non-COVID days is you hand this to them and they'll stick it on the refrigerator. So we go through this. I've already, at this point, I've gotten to the house, I've walked through, and we've come up, kind of taken notes, always carry my yellow, my yellow legal notepad. I don't know why, but I feel like it looks more professional, along with a manila folder.
I do too.
Yeah. And we go through, and after we get done, we walk through the house. They've given us their own personal tour. Depending on the sellers, I know, like in bold, we always learn about, like, what I'd like to do, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is see this in the eyes of a buyer. So what I'm going to do is just run through the house really quick and look at it. That really depends on their comfort level. But what usually ends up happening is they will go through and they'll walk you through and tell you about every little thing. So we do that. And then we come back and we talk about the 3 Ds of real estate, we call them, which is declutter, depersonalize, and deep clean. And we mark that off as being a very important, and we give a goal date to complete. This is usually their largest task. Does anyone do anything like this?
Don't give them a list, but yeah. And then we set a date for follow-up.
Awesome. And then another important one is remove any weapons, prescriptions, and small valuables. We actually had a gun go missing at one of our open houses one time, which
Wow.
was an interesting one in Des Moines. I think, Lori, you and I were sharing offices way back then, right about that time.
Oh, yeah. That was fun. I remember that.
Yeah. So yeah, prescriptions, even if it's like something like an antibiotic or whatever, make sure they kind of tuck that away, because as we all know, people grab and go. And whether or not this is really going to happen, sometimes this is just the stuff that sets you apart, that you're taking extra measures that other agents might not. Installing your carbon monoxide detectors, smoke alarms, and seismic earthquake straps on the water heater. These are kind of musts for all listings. And then you'll go through, and now that they've pointed out that they're going to be doing other projects like touching up the paint, replacing some trim, maybe, patching this hole in the wall, or, maybe they're swapping out appliances, you write that stuff down. Down at the bottom here, you're going to add staging. So whether it be virtual staging or real professional staging, you're going to have that at the bottom, and along with your photographs. And what you allow right here is some time that they can call the stagers and allow the stagers to come in and measure and get all their stuff done. And then their actual photograph, or then they need about 7 days of time between the photographs and when it goes on the market. So allowing time to get the photos back, and if there's virtual staging, it's like a 7-day window for us for editing that stuff.
Who do you use for that, David?
We use Box Brownie for our virtual staging.
Okay.
One of the things that I like to do here, guys, as well, is I always like to pull out a calendar, and when we choose what that listing date is, then we can see and we can start to work backwards, right, from that calendar. So, okay, we need to have this done by this date, but then they can see it. So if they're a visual or they're auditory or they're kinesthetic, however their learning style is, we're hitting all three of those by pulling out a calendar.
Exactly. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you said that, the visual versus kinesthetic versus auditory, because we're going to get into that in the listing presentation.
Awesome.
So basically those are the items. Looks like my sheet's a little wonky there. But you'll create a timeline for them. And Amity, I think you were mentioning that you give too much away, right? One thing that's important right here is you tell them that you have the best stagers ever. You let them know about your stagers, and you really huff them up, and do not give that phone number out to them until they've signed the listing agreement. That's kind of an important if there's something to take away. All right. Anything else that you guys have questions about?
So I have a quick question. So in that same vein, David, if they ask you as you're walking through the house and you're coming up with this list, if they ask you about, oh, well, what do you think we should do with this room or these things, or we're thinking about getting rid of this or the project or whatever, are you giving that full information, or are you withholding some of that until the listing agreement is signed?
Oh, that's a good question. I will let them know my stagers are awesome at that. And I mean, some people call them like your visual specialist, I think. But yeah, the stagers are incredible. A lot of times they'll ask for paint colors. I won't give away everything, but sometimes it really depends on how I feel. Are they going to sign it right now? Then I'll give them that information. Okay. But we all know how it feels to lose a listing because you already gave everything away.
Yep.
Yeah. And then it sucks when you see somebody else go list it and they've just used all of your stuff.
Yep.
So
we've all been there.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we carry this, and this is it comes across on Google Docs a little different than Microsoft Office, but it just shows like your home seller references and stuff like that. This should be on the other page. It comes up better in Word than it does on Docs, but I'm on my Mac. So now we'll get into actually going through. We've done that portion of it, and we're going to give the listing presentation, which is actually.
Sorry, David, what was that last form? What was that?
Oh, the listing references?
Oh, just people that you'd sold to recently or sold for recently.
Yeah, people that will give you a good review.
Okay, so they can, oh, that's nice. Okay, thanks.
So that one, as far as you might want to start asking some people just if they could recommend that, or if you're a newer agent and you're on here, sometimes leveraging, partnering up with somebody who's done it quite a bit, and allowing them to kind of be your reference in that way. All right, so now we have what we call the selling experience. This is with Place. And this is where we walk through and we really let them know it's about you, and it's about their needs, their dreams, their questions, and their timeline. And obviously it's Ben Kinney and Chris Suarez are the founders. And the only thing I really go over here is we know what makes your home sell, how it's priced, how it is presented, and how it is promoted. That's probably one of the biggest decisions you're going to have. And our partners, Ben Kinney and Chris Suarez, have sold X number of homes, and I don't have that stat with me right now. So what sets our company apart? We work as a team. There's 180 different tasks required to properly sell your property. With us, you get a team specialist to tackle all of them for the same cost you paid a higher average single agent or a small team. Our track record, we consistently sell the most properties for the most money based on the Wall Street Journal, top agents and top teams in America. And then transparency, we offer 24-hour access to see everything we are doing to ensure your property sells fast and for the most amount of money. Marketing, no one does more to market your property online, offline, and internationally than Place does. So one thing that I'm going to mention about this is actually, one second. They come in these they're really nice little books here, and they have like the velvet paper. So right now, do you know what you're focusing on?
I'm focusing on the place. Yep.
No,
So you're-
the kinesthetic,
No, it's the visual.
The packaging.
no, it's the experience of touching and feeling the luxury of the marketing.
Yeah, kinesthetic.
Kinesthetic, yeah.
Yeah, you started saying it, Lene.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually, so you're
It wasn't in my hand, so I couldn't feel it yet, man. Come on.
These have velvet pages. I mean,
And they
right
really
there.
they feel really nice. So you really, that's important, like hitting them right there.
My son is in advertising, and he kind of uses me as, he always is thinking about how I operate as a consumer. And he knows, you show me something pretty and glittery and that looks really nice, I'm probably going to buy it right off the bat.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's like it's the packaging. It's all about
Yes.
people buy the packaging. You can. Okay, so then we kind of talk about like how our team works, the power of our team, and I'm not going to read all these pages. It kind of depends on the individual. If you have your high C type, they're going to love going through all this and really picking it apart. If you have your high D, you're going to go through, you're going to read just these bullet points. And then we're going to go through the pictures. Your listing team, you have your marketing manager, your contract coordinator, your telemarketer, also known as an ISA. That's the person that's calling for the auditory buyers. Then you have your buyer team and your visual specialist, which we call it the photographer.
Now, if you don't have a team and you're an individual agent, right, you're going to talk about the benefits of working with an individual agent, right? That I am the one that's going to be answering your questions. I'm going to be the one that's picking up the phone when you have concerns, right? We're going to be working one-on-one. You're going to know me and I'm going to know you. Now, you still have a team that you can advertise. You can talk about, right, your closer. You can talk about your stagers, your inspectors, anybody that you have that does stuff with you, those could be your team.
And your entire office, what do we have, Bill? How many agents now?
340 agents.
We have 340 agents, and I think a lot of those are going to be like focused on buyers a lot. So you have your buyer team right there at the office. So you, in a sense, you do have a team, but they also get that one-on-one experience with you.
Yep.
And that's important for us too, that we want to make sure that I'm going to be the one you're actually calling. So then we talk about kind of our track record. And once again, I don't really go through all this. 4,000 plus homes sold in the last year, $10 million spent annually on marketing and servicing listings. We average a 4.9 out of 5. Why do you think it's a 4.9 out of 5 that we want to show here?
Because people don't believe perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah,
though
who answered that? Your mom and your sister?
Right.
Now, here's the thing. If you don't have numbers or you're a new agent, right, use the office numbers.
Mm-hmm.
This is what the lore is all about, the language of real estate. This is what it's all about. If you don't have your own, right, use the offices.
Yeah, exactly. And do you guys all know about kwpsstats.com? It's still that one, right, Bill?
Yes.
Yes. I would.
What was the website?
If I was going to write something down, I'd write down kwpsstats.com.
Does that includes mountains to sound too? Do you know?
It does not. We're working on that, Lori.
Okay.
Okay. At least you can use them, but. So basically going in here, just letting them know, you see everything, complete transaction transparency. We use something called transactions for us, which is part of Brevity. And I know that my understanding, I think Gary Keller bought a big portion of Brevity at one time, and they use a lot of that in command. So what makes your home sell? Number one, our pricing strategy. And the way we used to talk about this, do you guys know the 3 most important things that get your home to sell? Number
Price.
one is how it's priced.
Price, presentation, and promotion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I've never heard it that way, but yeah, that's good, Lene. So the pricing, the way it shows, and the way it's marketed. But price, presentation, and market and promotion, you said, the 3 Ps.
That's a John L. Sky hangover.
Oh, that's awesome. So what makes your home sell is our pricing strategy, how it sells, how it's marketed, and international marketing. Now that was one thing. So you really want to make sure that they understand that when they've gone through that pre-qualification, you really want to kind of dive into, Bill was mentioning that, you know, it's important that it's marketed properly. And then other things that are very important, and this is one of the most used things that they usually say their last agent did not communicate with them. And then number 6, active buyer database. We have like, I think 14,000. I used to do a lot of Craigslist stuff at one time, and I still have like a lot of old data in our database. So we have buyers in there. Then we have partnerships and we have negotiations. So obviously, like with us, it's being with places. We want to sell each other's listings first, because then we have our little profit share and revenue share stuff. So nobody does more to market your home, online, traditional, international, versus the average agent. And again, this is stuff I'll give to them. I won't really go into too much detail with it. We do let them know that we use something called the 5-5-5 pricing strategy to actually come up with the price on their house. And the way that works out is there's going to be 5 actives, which are your not sold properties. There's 5 pendings, which are your kind of where the sweet spot is. And then there's your 5 solds, which are true comparables. And that's what the appraiser is going to use. And I'll kind of let them know that we want to keep our eye on the pending properties, because that's kind of the sweet spot where we need to be to get activity. And then we make your listing shine, the photography, photo editing, staging, repair, virtual showings and open houses, live broadcast, videography. Another thing that I mentioned in here is that we do our Matterports, and that kind of goes with the virtual showings and open houses. Those are more important right now. And this is probably my favorite page of all that Bill had already touched on. And that's the types of buyers, the way that buyers buy homes. You have your auditory, which is your people that we have a telemarketer, an ISA that's going to give a call and let everybody in the neighborhood know, because usually it's the people in your neighborhood that are interested in finding a home. And this is where I would say, Bill, do you know anybody in your neighborhood that's thought about buying?
You know, when we started talking about, selling our home with Fred down the street, he was talking about, maybe looking.
Okay, awesome. So Fred's maybe looking. Now you kind of got a mental note. I'd say, like, what street was that on, Bill?
It was on 231st.
And now you just got yourself another seller too.
Tracy had a quick question. What were those again? Tracy, can you be more specific on that question? Tracy Sands, are you there?
I don't see the chat box on my screen.
It looks like she stepped away.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Wonder if she was talking about.
She sent that during the price presentation and promotion when you guys were talking about that.
Oh, okay. Well, we can go over that in a little bit. So you have the 3 types of buyers: your auditory, your visual. And your visual buyers are the ones that are really going to enjoy actually seeing the perma flyer that we put out front. And then we also target the kinesthetic buyers. That's where we actually put the paper flyers out with the perma flyer. And all you're doing right now is just kind of keeping them, you're one up in the competition that's only using perma flyers or only using paper flyers.
I do both.
Yeah, because now you have the kinesthetic buyers, and what the seller doesn't realize is that you're already targeting them with the velvet paper listing presentation as a kinesthetic, just in case. And then this just goes into more stats, and by this point, I mean, I'm kind of giving them something to, you know, the rest of it, this will help you fall asleep at night. And this part is important. So 5 ways we make sure all agents know about your home. There's the electronic flyers, the broker outreach, virtual tours, communication, and print media. And as we've already discussed, Bill, we talked about our print media being a really important one for the kinesthetic buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have our internet marketing and technical team, and that they help get them all out to brokerage websites, listing portals, search engines, classified services, and social media. And I'm pretty sure KWLS does all this part, right?
The internet marketing, KWLS, it does, when we put it on the KWLS, it is absorbed by 300 different websites. Yeah, so it goes international even.
And then listing portals, search engines. And how this is done in Command, I believe, through search engines, the classified services, and the social media is all done through Command, right?
It is now, yes.
Perfect.
So the AI puts it out there and gets it going for you. Yep.
Awesome. And then just talking about more of the team, the Director of User Experience and Design, Director of Agent Communities, and SEO, blogging expert, VP of Digital Advertising and Products, and the CTO. That's kind of our tech team that's helping out in the backside.
And your Command does all that, by the way. So
yeah. And what makes your home sell, how it's marketed, all the different brokerage websites out there. Our technology allows us to showcase your property on all the major brokerages websites like Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker, John L. Scott, Remax, Sotheby's, Compass, Redfin, Century 21, Berkshire Hathaway, and more. Then we have our search engines, and it's really tough to get to the top of the search engines today. So what we use is we actually allocate a lot of our marketing dollars towards pay-per-click. And this is a great one that can also be used when you're going into when somebody's like telling you that, you know, so-and-so said that they'd list it for 1%. Well, good, then we don't need to get you to the top of Google because you don't want to pay for that. So it's kind of just something to think about right there. I wouldn't really.
Oh, David, I think you froze, man. Did David freeze or did I freeze, guys?
David did.
David froze. Man, he's just giving a killer listing presentation. It gave him a heart attack. We're all good. Okay. We're going to wait here for just 1 second. See if David gets back in with us. I'm going to text him and let him know that he froze.
Hey, Bill, I have a question on this slide. I know it's David's slide, but you know, he used it as he allocates a lot of money to get you to the top of Google. Well, what happens if they go in, you know, they sign you up, whatever, hire you as their agent, they go and we're like, hey, we're not at the top of Google.
We're not at the top, yeah, they're gonna expect more to be used there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back, David. So yeah, I don't know that I would necessarily use that language. We want to get you as high up on Google as we possibly can, right? We want to get you as high up on Bing as we possibly can. I always try to protect my integrity with that. So that's a great question. Welcome back, David.
Sorry about that.
We're moving David to a better place that's got a higher internet connection. So David, when you're ready to sell your property, let me know. I got velvet paper for you, man.
Awesome. All right, where did you guys lose me? Was
right
it
there, just after search engines. Yep.
Okay, so we were just talking about the search engines, and this will feed back into where their marketing dollars are spent. So it can be helpful when you're battling commission objections. I would never say it the way that I said it, though. I would actually say that we allocate like X number of dollars, usually about $1,000 is what we put towards actual pay-per-click marketing on our listings, which in turn is kind of how we get our leads and stuff. So it's actually a benefit back to the team. So what makes your home sell? Now we go into classified services. Craigslist, believe it or not, there still are people that use it. I always like to use the story of I picked up in 2014 a $1.55 million buyer that he's actually the VP of Microsoft for their OEM division. And he ended up buying a house that he found us on Craigslist. And then there's other platforms that are used more so overseas. And believe it or not, a lot of other countries are using classified services to find their real estate. That's how they search in their countries. I know the Philippines is definitely like that. And then you're reaching buyers at every opportunity. You're using yard signs, open houses, and showings. You have networking, print advertising, international marketing, and your global approach, crystal clear communication. By this time, you're really just going for the high C because a lot of people will start losing interest here. Mm-hmm. And you're only really presenting this to the high C people. Because if you're giving this to a high D, you should just hand them the book and tell them to read it in their own spare time.
David, what do you think is the most important part of the listing presentation when you're presenting something? Obviously, as you said, this is a lot of material except for those high Cs, right? Which are very cautious and want to make sure that every T is crossed, every I is dotted. What is the most important part that you found in your experience in your listing presentation to give to people?
Most important part would be the pre-qualifying the listing. And
why is that? What makes that so important?
Because you're finding out what they're looking for. The fact that you offered the way that you answered, actually that person, that Mary Wright, she would be your person that would want this of all the things because she was very detailed. So
is that something you would send ahead of time, or is that a leave behind, something you would send ahead of time? And do you guys have this as a emailable flip book or something?
Yeah, I'd send her probably the PDF. This one's a PDF right here.
Okay.
And I would have sent that to her to read through it. And then also we do leave it behind with them too.
Okay.
This is an important page though. If I were to go through something, I would say the negotiations, you have your pre-offer, then you have your offer. Then you might want to make any, request any repairs or anything like that. Then they have the appraisal, any kind of personal property that might get left behind. And then you have closing and possession. That's where you talk about underwriting and that little spot right there. So yeah, I can send you guys a copy of this so you guys can look through in your spare time and copy as much as you want. Or
that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I was just wondering, like, all this stuff, I see it just looks so professional. Do you guys put this together? Can we just hire somebody to make this for us? Who prints the books? Like, I could never do this. This is just not my thing. It looks great. I want it, but like.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for us, we obviously don't do it, but we have like a whole marketing department that does it. But there are people you could actually copy a lot of this and you could go through. Does anybody have any recommendations for like any sites?
Upworks.
Oh man.
Yeah, Upwork.
Yeah.
Upwork, you could have them almost pirate this whole thing.
Yeah.
I built a book on Canva.
So did I.
Canva.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dylan has one.
CAMBA.
Correct.
Yeah. And it's worth the membership. They have a lot of good stuff on there.
Yeah.
As Howard said, Command does this too in designs. I'm just promoting.
Command. Okay.
Us.
Yeah, so I guess you could whoever's in charge of your command, they could put that together. And
Amity, for when you're saying, hey, I can never do this, understand that there are people that you could put this together and then have them print the booklets for you, right? And so it's going to realize that it's going to cost you additional money. If you want to keep it, lower cost, again, like Dylan said, Canva, you can put it together, you can print it out. Command, you can put it together, you can print it out. There's lots of different ways that you can do this. It could also be in a 3-ring binder with a nice, cover on the front. One of the things, those that worked at John L. Scott, we remember the black box and the white box, right? And it was just, it was yeah. I mean, there's different ways for you to be able to put this together.
Yeah. So like a big one, Upwork.com, I think Lene was saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Fiverr is another one.
What does
Yeah.
Fiverr do? Do they give like, I've heard so much about it and I've been thinking I kind of want to facelift everything, bottom line. And is that a company you would go through that would be able to help me with that? Like helping update my logo and my brand and that kind of thing?
Oh yeah, that would actually be a good. I'd probably use Upwork personally, but Fiverr would do it. And I use Fiverr sometimes for.
Upwork might be better though. Okay.
I think so. I think the quality of work on Upwork is better than Fiverr. You
Okay.
kind of you pay $5, so you get what you pay for.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
that is correct. You always get what you pay for, right?
Yeah.
So,
But not
Kind
not
of
as much anymore. Now they have ways that they upsell you on things in Fiverr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can also pay about $800 to have that same logo done on Fiverr.
Yeah.
So.
and I apologize, guys. I need to jump off of this, so I'm going to let David continue here. I've got to go coach with an agent here. So, but I appreciate all of you being here. If you have any questions, David, how do they get in touch with you before I jump off here? What's the best way for them to get a copy of this?
Shoot me an email at david.berg@kw.com. And I also have to get off in just a minute because we have our little CFO meeting with Ross.
There you go.
But yeah, feel free if you guys have any questions. Did I answer everyone's questions or was there anything that I missed?
That was beautiful.
Do we have time for one quick question, or can I sideline the question, or what do you got?
Oh yeah, go ahead. My wife's meeting with him right now. We're good.
Okay, so recently I went on a listing presentation and I lost it because I lost it to a Compass agent who was using their concierge service to pay for all of their $10,000 worth of stuff that they wanted to do to get the house ready. How are you addressing that?
We have something else we use, which is it's like fix2sell.com, but it's more through Place.
Okay.
Okay, I can answer this for you.
Okay.
ZingFix.
Yep.
ZingFix is based out of Arburian Business Center by Matt Parker and Mick Purdy.
Okay.
And so you can have contractors come out and do the work on the home, and then they take it out of closing.
Okay.
So Zinc, ZINC.
ZING.
Hey, here's the guy. Here's Mick.
Mick, there's Mick. I'm promoting ZingFix, man. Come on.
We're ready to go.
Yes.
Ready to go? Okay.
So-
What's the number?
What is the phone number? Everything's done online, all by email, so I already.
Oh no, I want to talk to you and hear that accent. Come on back down.
Oh yeah, you can just get my personal number for that. Yeah. We're
Lenna's
ready
going to
go.
start working out of our Burien office. We're good. All right.
Yeah.
So,
Thing fix.
Okay.
Mick, I'll see you tomorrow, man.
Exactly. Yeah, there's ZingFix. There's one called Fix2Sell.
Okay.
So those are like two different websites you can use.
Yeah. But ZingFix does a great job. And I'm promoting them because they've done work for me and we're absolutely fabulous.
Thank
So
you.
they're there.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yes.
This is the one thing I wanted to share, but I'll have to shoot this to you in an email. This is something that we fill in for our actual clients at the end. Once we have the listing, we get all this answered, and it's a cognito form that we use and just give them the information to make sure that we get everything ordered, but I'll send you guys a link.
Perfect.
David, do you want us to email you if we want this information, or how are you going to go about this?
Yeah, go ahead and shoot me an email and I'll send that over to you guys.
Perfect.
All right, guys.
Thanks, David.
Hey, thank you
Awesome.
everybody for being part of this. Hopefully this was worth your time. And on February 5th, we're going to be doing a class just like this taught by David on negotiations and overcoming objections. So you'll want to be a part of that as well. Okay.
Yeah, if you guys try to come with your own too. I want to hear what you guys have to say too. I'd like to hear some about also.
Kelsey wanted to know what that form was that you just had up real quick, David.
Oh, it's a cognito form. I'm going to share it. So cognito, where'd it go? Right there. This is a Cognito form that we use for our agent listing questionnaire. This goes back to our marketing team. And this just kind of tells all the stuff, what their names are, making sure we have it. They have kind of validation. If you say yes to something, no.
So the website is cognitoforms.com.
Yeah, that's where we go to create them.
Okay.
You guys, does anybody use Cognito Forms?
Is that like Wufoo or Jot Forms or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like we have the entire we have our entire forms in here. It's kind of what Redfin does, believe it or not. Where they go.
All right, David, I'm going to sign off here. I don't believe it'll cut everybody off, but I just want to make sure, okay? If I cut everybody off, I apologize.
Well, it's okay.
One
We
last
can.
question. So what do you say to go for the close after all of this? What's the?
Let's get started on the paperwork. As long as they're in agreement, we're ready to do the paperwork by this point. One thing that I did not go over is that at the end of that listing presentation, we've now gone through their CMA, comparative market analysis. And once they're in agreement on that price, we'll start going over, and I'll go straight to Form 17 first, because then they can kind of appreciate how much work you're getting into. And if they're answering those questions, you're getting them ready to actually do the rest of the paperwork. If they're getting, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, do you present your CMA before you present this pretty little marketing piece?
No, I give them the marketing. I give them the actual listing presentation first.
Then the pricing.
Yeah, and then the pricing.
Okay.
And then you can kind of get the feels for whether or not you're going to be low or high. By now you've kind of developed whether or not they're going to be realistic on their pricing or not.
Okay.
And I know this is a lot of information to give them. So be sure, if I can recommend anything, ask questions along the way. I know I was kind of limited to an hour on this. Usually my listing presentations take almost 2 hours to go through, including the paperwork. So is that helpful?
Very.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
I can figure out how to get out of here.
I know.
Leave the meeting.
There it is. Okay. All right. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.